Hello, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to look at another global issue facing our planet, and that is climate change. Now, climate change is something I'm sure you've heard of. It is a huge topic and it's going to be quite difficult to condense it down into only a couple of lessons, but I will do my best. As you know by now, these virtual lessons are an advantage because you are able to pause them whenever you need to. So if you need to, pause it, have a look at what is on the screen, reread stuff if you need. Look out for the red boxes. Those red boxes are the things that need doing or need completing. And then if you're not sure of anything, feel free to send me an email. So I want to start today's lesson with this quote from Barack Obama. So he said, "Climate change is no longer some far off problem. It is happening here. It is happening now." I want us to think about that quote. I want us to see whether you agree with it or whether you disagree with it. Doesn't matter which side of the fence you fall on. I just want you to have a think about it because it's going to be useful as we go through today's lesson, and it may be that your opinion changes as we learn what we need to do for today. So let's start off with this idea of climate change. We've all heard about it, or at least I hope we have, but do we actually know what it means? So I want to give you a couple of minutes just to try and write down your own definition of what climate change means. So pause the video now and have a go at that. Awesome. So hopefully you got something along the lines of this. So climate change is something which refers to the changes in the world's atmosphere. So the atmosphere is this bubble of gas which surrounds our planet. It includes the rise of an average global temperature, but it also can mean the decrease or the lowering of global temperature as well. It might talk about changes in rainfall, so it might mean that rain gets stronger or maybe we get less rain. Other weather patterns might change as well. So anything where there is a change from the norm or what is expected is what we can call climate change. So there's lots of stuff in the news about whether climate change is real or whether it is not real, or at least whether it is something which is caused by human beings or something that is just a natural process. So we're going to have a little look at that today and try and decide whether climate change is something, firstly, is it definitely happening? And then secondly, whether it is something which is natural or something that is done by human beings. Now it's important we try and answer these questions because there are still some very high profile people who think that climate change isn't happening, and as a result make certain decisions about their governments and things which could have an impact on all of us if it is happening. So it's really important as geographers that we try and find out the answer to these questions. And it's all going to start with this guy right here. This guy is going to tell us whether climate is changing or whether it isn't changing. So what do you think he is doing? Now hopefully you came up with the idea that he's drilling for ice. And what this guy is doing, he is creating something which is known as an ice core. So he's drilling deep down into the ice to produce a cylinder of ice, something that looks a bit like this. Now these ice cores, as they are known, are really, really useful in understanding what our climate was like hundreds and thousands of years ago. So in these ice cores, we have different layers of ice. And it's a bit like if you cut a tree down and you get to count the different rings inside to see how old it is. We can do that with an ice core. We can actually look at the different layers and find out how many years that ice has been forming for. Because every year there is a new layer of ice. Now what's really special is if we look closely in those layers, we'll find frozen bubbles of air. And it's a little indication of what the climate or what the atmosphere was like at that moment in time. And what we can do is we can sample that frozen air pocket and find out how much oxygen's in the atmosphere, how much carbon dioxide's in the atmosphere, if there's any pollution in the atmosphere, and we can get a really good idea of what our climate used to be like. And we can actually do this reliably for thousands and thousands of years in the past, if you can find a deep enough piece of ice. So what I would like to do is I would like to summarize this information, right, and explain how we can use ice cores to gather climate data. Okay, so let's say you've been in Antarctica, you've been drilling for ice, and you've got this really, really good set of data. What we can do is we can actually use that data to draw a graph. And that graph is the one you were looking at. Okay, this is a simplified version, but it shows you our climate over time for the last 10,000 years. So that's since the last ice age. And hopefully what you can see is our graph changes quite a lot over the last 10,000 years. So our global temperature starts off quite low in about 8,000 BC. So this is just coming out of the ice age. You can see the little caveman there. As the planet starts to warm up, we level out in that middle bit there, and our temperature fluctuates. So it goes up a bit, goes down a bit, doesn't really change. Then as we go through time, we have these two distinct periods of time. We have something called the medieval warm period. So this is when people were actually writing down about the climate, trying to understand a bit more about what was going on. And actually they had a period of time where it was really warm, really good summers, really hot, really good harvests. And then fast forward a few hundred years into the future, we had something called the Little Ice Age. Now, it didn't go right back down to being a full ice age, but it was definitely noted that winters were colder and longer, and there were a lot more problems for people who were, relying on the weather for their crops. Now, probably the most important thing from this graph is to look right up to modern times. So in that kind of 1800s, 2000s kind of area. Because in that area, you can see our climate starts to go upwards really, really quickly. There's a real rapid increase in our graph. Now this shows us that our climate is changing. We can't doubt that. What we can doubt is why it is changing. And that's what we're going to go on and have a little look at in a second. But what I would like you to do is have a go at describing this graph. So describing the changes in the Earth's climate since the last ice age. Remember, when we describe something, we just say what we see. And try and use some of those words in there. I've used them, so if you want to pause a video and go back and listen to what I've said, by all means do that. But try and use those words to get a really good description of what's going on. So we've established now, without doubt, that our climate is changing. It is definitely getting warmer, definitely warmer than the last ice age, and actually warmer than any of the records we have got. But what is causing that climate change? That's what we want to try and understand. So I want you to take 5 minutes just to try and mind map as many ideas as you can as to why the Earth's climate might be changing. So there's actually lots of reasons. There's probably more reasons than you think there are. So take your time and have a little think about all the things which might have an impact on our climate, and specifically things that might cause it to warm up. If you want to extend yourself a little bit as well, try and split them into two different tables. So try and split them into things which are human causes, so things that humans do to the climate, and then into natural causes, so things that just occur naturally and have nothing to do with human beings. Okay, so how many did you get? Hopefully you were able to come up with at least a few reasons as to why you think the climate might be changing. Now, I've done a couple of revision videos for my GCSE class, and what I'd like you to do is take a look at these two videos. They're pretty short. Right? One's about the natural causes of climate change, and one's about the human causes of climate change. And whilst you're watching those videos, what I want you to do is I want you to add to your mind map or add to your tables, so you've got a full list of all the reasons why our climate might be changing. So you can pause this video now and then click on either of those links and watch both of those videos and add to your own information so you've got that full list. Excellent. So hopefully you've got some really good information out of those two videos, and now you are fully aware of why the climate is changing. Now throughout those videos, and when you start looking at stuff online, you'll see lots of different words that are thrown around when we talk about climate change. So climate change is the obvious one. We've spoken about that. We've got a definition for that. But you also might have heard me talk about global warming. You might have heard the term the greenhouse effect, and you should have definitely heard this term greenhouse gases, because we mentioned those quite a lot in the other videos. And all of these things have a big impact on our understanding of the climate on our planet. So what I would like to do, based on what you currently already know, is I'd like to try and write a definition for each one of those key words. Now we've already got climate change, so you don't need to do that one again, but try and write yourself a definition for global warming, the greenhouse effect, and greenhouse gases. Try and use examples if you can. All right, and try and do it without looking. See how much you took in from those other videos. All right, and use it as an opportunity to test yourself. Remember, they are all linked together, but they are not the same thing. So each one of those things has a different definition. Okay, so how did you do? Here are some dictionary definitions from the textbook about those 4 things. All right, so check them against your answers. Give yourself a mark if you want and see how you think you did with those words. Now, the greenhouse effect out of those 4 words is the one that's really important. So you would have heard me talk about it in my other videos, and it's the process of trapping in that sun's energy so it keeps our planet warm enough to live on. Without the greenhouse effect, we wouldn't be able to live on our planet. But the problem we have is when that layer of greenhouse gases gets too thick and we're unable to live on it because our planet gets warmer and warmer and warmer. And that's the situation we're currently in with all of that human causes of climate change. So what I would like you to do is I'd like you to try and summarize this greenhouse effect, because it's really important that we get it into our heads how this works. So I want you to create your own version of this greenhouse effect diagram. That's really important. I don't want you to copy it. I don't want to test your ability to copy. I'm sure you're able to do that. But I want you to try and get a version of the greenhouse effect diagram that makes sense to you. Okay, so this is one of the ones I found online. I think it's quite good, but there's plenty of others on there as well. If you want to go back and re-watch some of my videos, there's other descriptions there, and there's plenty of others you can find online. So find one that works for you and create your own version. All right, and this is the thing you're going to email me at the end of today's lesson, okay, to show me that you're done. So think about how you can create your own version of the greenhouse effect diagram. Okay, so we're more or less done for today. So next lesson, we're going to have a little look at the impacts of climate change. So we understand how it happens now, all right, but we want to try and understand what that actually means for our planet. Okay, how does it affect people? How does it affect the environment? How does it affect the economy? Alright, so your to-do list then. Make sure you've completed all of today's work. That includes watching the other YouTube videos. So if you haven't done that, if you just skipped through, make sure you go and watch those other 2 videos that I've linked from me. Make sure you email me a copy of your greenhouse effect diagram. And then check show my homework for your next lesson task. So we're going to put all of those on there so you're able to get those. And as always, if there's a problem, if you've got an issue, if you've got a question, then send me an email. Now I've just put this final little extension task down. So those of you who are taking GCSE Geography next year, we're going to look at climate change in lots more detail. All right, so it's a good opportunity now for you to get a bit ahead of the game and start looking at some climate change documentaries online. There are hundreds on YouTube to look at. There's a couple on Netflix as well. It's worth looking into to try and understand some of the complexities of this big and important topic. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of that. I hope you learned something about climate change and this big global issue. Like I said before, make sure you check out those other videos. Really important, they link in with this lesson. And if you want to save yourself some hassle and checking your emails, then if you click subscribe, you'll get a notification next time I post a video. Okay, speak to you next time. Bye.